it's me. So today, as you can tell from the title, we are going to be making a really simple feather case. So a lot of the times people, they use feather boxes, which are like these deep, long boxes that you can put one or more feathers in, and they come in different sizes. And some people just use cases. So the feather case that we're going to be mimicking today was given to me when I graduated from high school many years ago. But I think that just by looking at it, I think that it's really easy to make, and if somebody with little to no sewing experience or any kind of crafting experience, whatever, can make this case. It is really easy, and if you have a feather that you need cared for and you can't afford a box, or you want something smaller for travel reasons, look no further. So like I said, I did not make this case. I didn't do the beading or any of the decoration. And basically it just has like a ribbon sewn onto it. You untie it and it reveals a feather. I do want to point out that this is probably better for feathers that are pretty flat. This is probably flattened a lot over the years, but I do have some fresh feathers that are probably going to end up just as flat. So I'm going to be making 2 feather cases because I have 2 feathers to put in them. When you have a feather that won't really work in a feather case, probably a feather like this one, because this one is very curved. And if they curve a whole lot, it's so big that I can't fit it in the camera. If it's super curved, then it's not going to sit nicely in this flat feather case. So basically, what we're doing is we're going to be taking some felt, some cardboard. So what I did is I just took some lids from like a cardboard box. These are, I think, about 6 1/4 inches by 16 inches. They're much bigger than the actual feathers, so there's lots of room in there. But I mean, if you have a smaller or bigger feather, just use whatever you can do. For the tying part, I just grabbed some ribbon. It could be any size or color, whatever you want to do. So for the felt, I'm just cutting one big piece of felt for each carrying case. So for these 6 1/4 inch by 16 inch cardboard pieces, you need 2 of them for one case. What I did for the large piece of felt was I cut it 18.5 by, what was it, about 24 inches long.
So I realized I never went over how to measure out a piece of fabric in case you're using different sizes of cardboard pieces. So real quick, I'm going to go through that now. For now, let's focus on what we need for the width, and then we'll talk about the length. So my cardboard piece was 6 1/4 by 16 inches, and I'm going to refer to the 16-inch side as the width. I should cut my fabric piece about 1 to 2 inches wider than my cardboard piece, so 17 to 18 inches. Using other widths as examples, for a 20-inch width, adding 1 to 2 inches should result in a 21 to 22-inch wide fabric piece. For a 14.5-inch width, adding 1 to 2 inches should result in a 15.5 to 16.5-inch wide fabric piece. The reason I'm saying 1 to 2 inches is because 1 inch is pretty much the exact amount of seam allowance you need, but adding 2 inches gives you extra space for mess ups or whatever. In this tutorial, I actually added 2.5 inches to the width, which, my bad, was way too much. So in this tutorial, I show you how to work with a fabric piece that's too wide. As for the length, my strongest suggestion is to use your cardboard pieces as a guide rather than measuring them and doing math. Depending on the thickness of your fabric and the thickness of your cardboard, the length you need is impacted by how the fabric folds over the cardboard and how big of a space you leave between the cardboard pieces. Basically, I'm saying it's easier to lay the pieces on your fabric, fold the fabric over the cardboard, and eyeball where you need to cut, rather than measuring and running the risk of your fabric being too short, because no one wants to do millimeter math in order to consider how thick the cardboard is. You know what I'm saying? But if you feel more comfortable doing the mathing, you could always cut it a bit too long and then trim off the excess before you do the zigzag stitch. I know that last sentence probably doesn't make sense right now, but you'll know what stitch I'm talking about real soon. For my case, my pieces were 6¼ inches long. Put together, that's 12½ inches. My fabric piece was 24 inches long and was just right. So just an inch short of double the added lengths of my cardboard pieces. I hope that's helpful information, but your eyes might still be more reliable than math for this project.
So basically just a large rectangle. I will adjust the camera and show you why I cut it this way. Okay, so real quick before I get to the actual instructions on how to put this thing together, I just kind of want to explain what the logistics behind how this all works real quick. So there are 2 pieces of the cardboard, right? And then the one big piece of the felt. Again, the cardboard is about 6¼ inches by 16 inches. This felt is actually about 18½ by about 24 inches. It's actually a little too wide. The 18½ is just a little bit too wide, so we'll end up reducing that as we're sewing. Just want to throw that out there. So we'll have these 2 pieces here, and we're going to leave a gap in between them, and we're going to fold each end over the 2 pieces. And what will happen is when we fold this, it will create a leather case, it'll create a feather case. We have these 2 pieces joining here. They will actually slightly overlap. And we want them to do that so that when we stitch down the middle, the stitch will catch both pieces. So I have already put one together. You've seen the one that was gifted to me already. And I need to make 2 cases, so I actually already put one together. So here we are. We have the 2 pieces, and then the ends are folded over them. And then I stitched, here's the edge of the flap that was on the top. So I did 1 stitch to basically just sew them together, and then another zigzag stitch at the end of the top layer just to catch it. And then I took a ribbon and I just sewed it on in the middle, and then yeah, it's a feather case. But we also need to make these edges clean. So when it comes to decorating your case, my suggestion is to always do patches separately and then sew them on by hand. You could try to sew patches or bead directly onto the felt, but then you kind of run the risk of them not being placed where you want them to be. They might end up, you know, like off center, or kind of in the wrong spot altogether. You know, they might end up where you need the fabric to fold. But I mean, if you measure right, I guess you could get it right. But we're actually going to take one piece of cardboard and we're going to set it aside. We're actually going to take this piece of cardboard and then fold this over it. And what we want to do is we want to kind of push this cardboard towards the inside folded edge so that we don't have too much room. And then, let's see, we want to leave about a ½ inch of extra fabric that like reaches past the cardboard, if that makes sense. So once you do that, just make sure that your edges line up, and that lets us know that we have this folded nice and straight. Go ahead and pin it in place. And then remove the cardboard. So our next step is we're actually going to do a straight stitch down each side, and that's going to form a seam that we will then turn inside out. So for one side, I will be doing a 1/2 inch seam, and then on the other side, like I had said just a little bit earlier, it's a little too wide. So once I sew that 1/2 inch seam, then I'm going to use the piece of cardboard I have to gauge where I need to sew after that. So it will be, I want the seam to be kind of close to the cardboard, not right up on it because you need room for the extra fabric. That will be inside the seam. So a little bit further away is where we want the seam to be, and then we want to sew about right there, and then we will trim off the excess. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So
voiceover. So here is my 1/2 inch seam, and I'm going to take the cardboard piece and put it next to that seam so I can kind of gauge where I need the next seam to be. So like I said before, I cut my fabric piece too big, and I don't want the pocket for the cardboard piece to be too big. So right here is where the seam would be if I just did 1/2 inch like the other side, but that would leave that big gap right there. So we actually need to make the seam much closer to the cardboard piece to make the pocket smaller. So I'm just marking with a pin where I need to do the seam. Then the excess fabric will be trimmed off.
So here on this side we have the 1/2 inch seam, and then on this side we have the seam that reduces the width of the overall project. So first thing that we will do right now is we want to eliminate this corner, and that will help when we turn this inside out. It will help this corner kind of fold in on itself nicely. So first we will trim that corner off. And then I want to trim off the excess of this seam. Not super close to the seam, but we do definitely want to make this seam smaller so that it will fold in nicely. And when you get to the end, just kind of like boop off. And then same thing on this side, we want to eliminate the corner. Alright, there's corner is gone, and then trim off the excess. And then here I'm just gonna, because the seam is so wide, I'm just going to trim it straight off instead of like rounding it off. So and now we will grab each corner and turn this inside out. And now what we have is a little pocket with the remainder of the fabric on it. So grab one piece of cardboard and we're going to put it in this pocket. And then we're just gonna leave it in there for now and work on the other side. So flip it back over. So for the other side, we'll grab our other piece of cardboard and we'll place it probably like an inch away from the other piece. I know you probably can't see on camera where the other piece stops. Maybe I can try and, can you see it? So yeah, we'll do it about an inch away from that. Fold this over. And this doesn't overlap far enough, so I'm actually just gonna, there we go. So these pieces of cardboard are going to be a little closer than I had originally planned, but that's okay. Alright, now that we have it folded, I'm going to take the cardboard away, and since we had to reduce the side, like this side right here, I'm actually going to start on this side, which, whoa, is cut like really crooked. That's strange. Alright. But yeah, anyway, I just want to pin these. Okay. So what I'll do is sew the side that requires only a 1/2 inch seam first. And then on this side, I'll go ahead and try and match up with this seam in a way where I would just be sewing straight on. Basically just doing the same size seam, so. Alright, so now I have both seams again. We're just going to repeat what we did the last time and cut off the corners and the excess. Grab the corners and fold it inside right. And then we're going to take our other piece of cardboard and we're going to put it into the new pocket we just formed. Now if you can see, the seams we just did form the sides of the case. So now what we have to do is close up these two pockets, and we have to do that with the cardboard pieces inside of them. So if this is too difficult for you to do with your sewing machine, this is totally possible by hand. This entire project actually is possible to do by hand. I am able to kind of maneuver the cardboard in a way where it will fit under my sewing machine, so lucky me. But what we're going to do next is, as you can see, the ends of the felt kind of overlap each other. So I'm going to do a straight stitch down the middle, and then I'll do a zigzag stitch. Like a straight stitch helps it bend really uniformly, and a zigzag stitch just kind of like ensures that you're sewing up both sides of the fabric. So I just did that straight stitch seam right there, and then we have like a little bit of the excess fabric flopping right there. We're going to do the zigzag stitch right on the edge of that so that it catches that edge of the fabric. Now this part is kind of up to you which way you want to fold it. I would like to fold it with the seam on the inside, so it would fold like this, and then there won't be any evidence of like edge of fabric on the outside. But I mean, you could totally do it either way. This is what it would look like with the edge of the fabric on the outside. So I just feel like it looks cleaner this way. This does matter in terms of finishing the project though, because once we finish the project, that's how it's gonna fold forever and ever. That's because our last step is to grab some ribbon and apply it so that we can close the case. So the ribbon doesn't have like a uniform length that needs to be. You basically just take it, I like to place it underneath, and then pull the end of it until it reaches like a desired, like how far it comes off. See how it's wrapped all the way around, and then there's a little extra. So this is about how long I want to make it, and that's so that there's plenty of extra ribbon here to tie up the case. And real quick, I just want to go ahead and finish off these ribbons so that they don't fray. My method of choice is to just burn them with a lighter because they melt. Alright, so next what we're going to do is sew that ribbon into place, and that's really simple. I just leave it on the zigzag stitch, and I'm going to open up this case so that the outside is on the top, and I'm going to, hold on, and I'm going to slide this through.
That's a cute ribbon.
Yep. Take my ribbon and fold it in half in order to find like the midpoint of the ribbon. Okay, so there's my midpoint. And then I'm going to kind of find the midpoint of the width of the case and place the ribbon there. Doesn't have to be perfect, I'm just eyeballing it, but if you want it to be perfect, then just grab your measuring tape. Okay? And then, like I said, zigzag stitch is still on. I'm just going to run it down and back just once. Okay, and here it is. Here's the case. So you can open her up, place your feather, I'm going to place it like this. Here we go.
What? Is that a feather case?
Mm-hmm. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that I was able to articulate the directions clearly. If you ever have any questions, my social media is linked down below. You can contact me on there and ask me any questions that you have about this tutorial. Leaving comments down in the YouTube video is fine as well. It just might take me a while to see them. So yeah, it's just a really simple case. So I hope this tutorial was helpful or entertaining or whatever you want it to be, and I will see you on the next one. Vamos aqui, Guaman.